got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen, yeah. What? You got me feeling like I'm Josh. Okay. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen, yeah. Josh.
Got me feeling like I'm
Who? Josh. Yeah.
Josh Allen.
We the mafia, Bills mafia, we the mafia, Bills mafia, we the mafia, Bills mafia, we the mafia, Bills mafia.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the house that Alan built. This is going to be episode 35 and our first one going live. I'm Scott Martin, and with me as always,
Greg Vollmer.
All right, if you guys can hear us, leave a message in the comment. We are on Facebook and we are on YouTube. I also have a Twitter, which is my @ handle below me. And Greg, you've got Instagram, right?
Correct, yeah.
All right. So,
Nicknamed Hollywood on Instagram.
let's talk about this game and recap the divisional round and I guess the season and what we
went exactly like we thought it would.
Yeah, right. Well, we both predicted wins, and we won't even get into that score because it was, I think it was by a field goal. I think I said 31-28. And you?
I think I said 34-27 in that range. So definitely, I had a coworker at the building that I work at. It's technically I'm a security officer for an independent, a building, and one of the guys there is a Bills fan, and he asked me how I was feeling before the weekend going into the game, and I clearly had a lot more confidence than he did because he was pretty nervous, and I was like, after the offensive line news for the Bengals, I'm feeling pretty good about it. And turns out I was definitely overconfident. I think along with many other Bills fans.
Most Bills fans. And that goes for me as well. I felt good about last year's matchup if we had gotten past the Chiefs. And apparently Daquan Jones and Von Miller were the missing pieces on defense. And as far as offense, Brian Daboll was a missing piece.
The one thing that there's a lot of things that boggle my mind, and as everyone's probably a lot of Bills fans that like myself, like Scott, like to listen to WGR, different podcasts, Buffalo Fanatics, all the different content out there, especially after a loss like this, because misery often loves company, and it's good to hear other people's perspective, not just your own, and hear about what other people have to say and how they digest a loss like this that eats at you and you feel it like a in your gut. But what I don't get is that every time minus Von Miller, every time we talk about our defensive line, we're always talking about how they have to have help, that someone's got to distract or double team so that another person can be isolated. And I get that that's not something new to any team, but being failed at drafting D-line in the first and second round over the last 4 years, if that's what every single guy he drafted needs. Because if you're drafting, in my opinion, in the first and second round at that position, they should be game wreckers. We shouldn't just have Von Miller be a game wrecker and then Rousseau is kind of coming along, and then we got Oliver and Epinesa to kind of fill in the cracks. Like where they were drafted, they should all be game wreckers. And yes, we lost Vaughn, and that was a huge blow to not have him for pretty much half the season, a little over. But they had every opportunity then to step up, and Rousseau did, and Oliver had his moments. But overall, it was an accumulation that ended in Buffalo on Sunday that was just, it was mediocrity. And you see it on the offensive line too. And clearly Brandon Beane and McDermott have done some great things, but you're starting to see some cracks now show up after 4 years in the making of this process.
Unfortunately, the game that followed the Bills game reminded me very much of last year. Like, they literally had the ball for seconds and then time ran out. And it was even worse because Turpin got his ass kicked on a stupid play where Zeke was the snapper. But my point is, they ended it in heartache, and so did we. The only difference is we didn't go in overtime. We didn't lose because we didn't get the ball from a coin flip. This was, as Brandon Beane put it today, a beatdown.
It was an ass kicking. It was embarrassing. I mean, I'm never going to be embarrassed to be a Bills fan. The city went through a lot this year, and the city's gone through a lot, not just this year. And they always bounce back, and they always build each other up.
Yeah.
But damn, it was a lot. This team took a lot. Let's talk about the expectations that were set before a single ball was snapped this season.
Oh, yeah, they went into the year as the clear-cut Super Bowl favorites, knowing that I guess I wasn't the only one, nor you, that thought, hey, if the Bills had gotten past the Chiefs, they would have gotten past the Bengals and beat the Rams. Based on how well they played.
Think about how confident we were at the end of last season about that. And I think that now that everything's come full circle, and it's hindsight, but now that we got our lunch stolen in our own home by the Bengals, we were all as fans so confident that had we gotten past that 13-second debacle, that we would just have automatically beat the brakes off of the Bengals in Buffalo. And yeah, maybe the way our momentum was going was totally different than the way it was not going at the end of this season, but it wasn't a sure thing. And it is, we just were talking about it in our, Bills Mafia chat before the podcast with Brant. It's ludicrous to crown a team Super Bowl favorites like the Bills by barely not winning the divisional round. Think about how it sounds even stupider now because we got the shit kicked out of us. But how ridiculous is it for the media to put a narrative that the Bills losing in the divisional round last year are Super Bowl favorites going into this year? It's like and you wonder why the Bengals were so pissed. Now, it wasn't just like the last couple weeks, 3 weeks, and the whole ticket sale thing and the having to get screwed over on the seating and having the game get nullified with the DeMar Hamlin, tragedy, or what was almost a tragedy. But damn, they had a whole year to stew about how all Bills fans in the media, all they could talk about going into this season was how it was just a foregone conclusion that the Bills were going to beat the Bengals last year. And they didn't even get to that point. Yet the whole year the Bills had to carry this weight of being Super Bowl favorites. Nothing's fair. I don't think it was fair for them to be labeled that, and I don't think they deserve to be labeled that starting this season. But I bought into it, and a lot of people did.
I did too.
Your thoughts?
Quickly, a shout out to Laugh My Ass Off. I guess it's they said, "Hey Scott" in the comments. So, hi Greg, and you as well. Anyway,
LMFAO?
I know I said it wrong. It's ALMAO. Hey, laugh my ass off. Okay, back to what you were saying. I think going into the season, when we landed someone like Von Miller, what a lot of people assume put us over the edge ended up not being what we had for the second half of the year. And Allen started out hot. I mean, we were lighting people up. And then we got to that September 25th game against Miami, and 120 heat index killed us. And after Allen got hurt week 9 with the elbow, he never returned the form.
A half a season that he played with a gimpy elbow, and I mean, no excuses. Then he's going to be the first to admit no excuses. But yeah, that's something. It's not nothing that he played, having to adjust his throwing motion for the better part of 7-8 games.
Yeah, And then it doesn't help that he had to play hero ball, so he got sloppy, where Dable kind of got that out of him because he was able to scheme up, a security blanket here and there. And he had Knox and McKenzie and Beasley, who was there all year. You had those guys underneath, where now it was, for whatever reason, they just started going like third and short and we're throwing 20, 30-yard bombs. Like, I don't get it. And Allen, I expected they were going to scheme up some QB sneaks in this game. The run game was never quite there. I think they each had under 7 or 8 carries the whole game.
Yeah, I was watching. Go ahead.
No, that's just it. I mean, we fell flat, and WGR was talking about how that emotional roller coaster, they were going to hit a high and then a low, and this drained them. You could tell that they.
Well, yeah.
They didn't have any.
The Bulldog. The Bulldog on WGR, I believe it was. I don't think it was Shope. I think it was Bulldog. He mentioned, this was 2 weeks ago, I think, maybe 3 weeks ago. It might have been before the original Bengals game in Cincy. I remember him saying he was wary of what we saw happen on Sunday. It's almost like he predicted it, but it was before a game that ultimately didn't happen. 9 minutes of it, I guess. He kind of predicted, with everything that's gone on with this team, when was that battery going to run out? And clearly, the battery ran out on Sunday, and that's not taking anything away from the Bengals. They talked a lot of shit going into this game, and they 100% backed it up, and they outplayed us, outcoached us, outclassed us. But I was gonna go ahead.
Aside from Allen, Stephon Diggs was the guy that he could go to. And then come playoffs, the dude had 7 catches in 2 games, and he wasn't targeted enough.
Yeah, let's talk about Stephon Diggs. Well, I mean, it's a perfect time to. It's been a hot topic amongst the media and especially Bills fans. And I'll just say what side I am on it. That's 100% normal how Diggs acted. Now, did he have to put his arms up at that point in time in front of Allen and Joe Brady?
It was already too late.
Yeah, he didn't have to, but clearly he was like he felt what the whole team felt. They were dead in the water, and so I think in his mind, not only is he's an ultimate competitor, and he was pissed, and just in that moment he let his feelings boil through, and it wasn't the best look, and Allen really didn't know how to handle it. You could just tell he kind of kept his head dug in on the tablet, and he didn't want to go at it at that point in time, and it was probably not the right time. But I think Diggs felt what everyone was feeling, and he was kind of the only one that wanted to express it at that moment. I want to see that. Why wouldn't you want to see that? He's sick of having to see the memes after every playoff appearance for the last 4 years now, where it's either him with his hands on his head, like the surrender cobra, or it's Josh Allen with the stone cold staring off into a 1,000,000-mile distant look.
When you see those, you would think that'd be adding fuel to the fire. And we, I guess we've said it over and over again about, Kim Pakula's health issues going into the season. We had team health issues with injuries throughout the regular season. They played through injuries, and then we went through the winter storms and the over 40 deaths back in Buffalo, the top shooting, having a home game relocated. We won through all those things. And then losing DeMar Hamlin, which was against the Bengals with the no contest. So this should have been the game that we had the most fuel and energy. And I think they were running on fumes. And not to make excuses, because Brian Dable did not call a good game. And Leslie Frazier, if it's his responsibility on defense, holy crap.
Dorsey
on offense. I said Frazier on defense. If I misspoke,
you said Dable.
I wish it was Dable.
It's. I mean, yeah.
But my point is that Frazier was doing these stunts where he had Milano and Edmonds hugging the defensive tackles, like filling the gaps, the A's and B gaps, and then 3rd and 4, and you've got this big gap behind you at the first down marker. And I don't know what they were trying to accomplish. After it didn't work a couple times,
Explain to me that. Yeah, Scott, explain why you would have your defenders 10 feet from the quickest, shiftiest wide receivers in the league.
All I remember seeing is Tyler Boyd up top. He's a slot receiver. All he had to do was cut right behind Milano Edmonds. I don't care how fast they are. I don't care if their wingspan's 7 feet. You're not going to get there in time. They needed 4 yards, and that gap was 10. Not feet, 10 yards. It was bad. I don't get it.
So let me just read this because I'm just going to read it to the audience since I know we talked about this in the group chat. Okay, blown 16-point lead in Houston, wild card 2019. Outcoached and outplayed in the KC title game in 2020. The infamous Diggs with his hands on his helmet, watching the confetti come down. 13-second meltdown in the Kansas City Divisional last year. That's the infamous Josh staring into space, looking obviously defeated. And then outcoached and outplayed in the Cincinnati Divisional game this year. And after all those games, at least a coach, multiple coaches, or at least a player or multiple players said something along the lines of, we will learn from this. And now we're sitting at a half a decade almost into this thing. And tell me, Scott, what does it look like you see on tape after seeing this latest debacle? What have they learned?
They've learned to shit themselves when it mattered most. They went conservative. You watch Brian Dable do it the day before when they got their butts kicked 38-7, and he's punting it. We had 4th and 2 in Bengals territory, and we're punting it. I just don't understand
playing to lose.
Why you change? You play not to lose instead of to win.
Well, yeah. Why? When it's a single elimination game, it's not a best of 5. It's not a best of 7. When it's one and done, this is it. You're packing. You're getting ready to pack your locker after this. If this doesn't work out, yeah. Why would you not be a little bit more aggressive there? And clearly, I had to be corrected by you earlier yesterday when I mentioned that Frazier needs to go. And I still believe that there needs to be someone new in there. And I respect Frazier. For all accounts, I've never met the man, but he seems like he's a great man, leader of men. He's well experienced. Hey, Saber. But I think that eventually things do get stale. Things do get mundane. And I think eventually, no matter how good of a person you are, how good of a coach you are, you get 4 or 5 years into a thing and you're not getting over the hump. It starts to fall on deaf ears, whether anyone wants to admit or not. But then you reminded me, I had to be corrected that, well, it's McDermott's defense. So then I'm like, shit. Then yeah, is getting rid of Frazier then just a moot point? But I think that bringing in a different defensive coordinator, a new face, a new vision, and then syncing up with McDermott to where they can tweak some things, because clearly we were talking about Chris Sims, how he's been so negative the last month on the Bills and how no one's afraid of the receivers and no one's afraid of their offense and no one's afraid of their defense. He was right. We get to the game on Sunday and the Bengals had no fear on anything we were coming up with. And then clearly they didn't learn from the 13-second thing because they were playing soft coverage for most of the game.
It was bad. Sorry, he's crying because I'm ignoring him in the background. Oh, there's Brant. Brant's in the comments. He says, need to let a new defensive coordinator run the defense fully. That's
Shout out
the
to
thing.
Brant.
Love
that dude brings the passion every Sunday. We watch the game with him. True passion right there. Shout out.
But that goes to here's the topic at hand. Frazier is running McDermott's defense, and McDermott gets the final say. So if he doesn't call him off on something or adjust himself, do you remember a couple seasons ago when we went into a lull and McDermott took over play calling?
I do remember. Yeah,
that lit a fire under Frazier, and when Frazier got it back, he was back to being solid. But he's like 60 years old, and what's up?
Yeah,
I do not know. She's asking me where my remote is, and I haven't had it. I was trying to mute it, but you can't hear it in the background with the mic here. This is what happens when we do it live, and I'm inside the house. I guess
that's all right.
I could have done it from the studio.
We're human. You got a family and a kid. It's all good. The show goes on.
So we had a comment on YouTube that said Bills fan from Florida. So that was the ALMAO. So he's watching on YouTube. Brant's watching through Facebook. Shout
out to Bills Mafia down in Florida.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna mute this real quick. You go ahead and talk, but I got to talk to my wife for a sec.
Yeah. Ultimately, something's going to have to change. I think McDermott has enough pressure on him right now. His seat's not hot. It's starting to get, you're starting to turn, like when you start to turn the heat warmers on in your car seat and it's like takes a while to build up and then all of a sudden you start to finally feel it. You just flipped it on. And this next season coming up is going to be to see how hot that seat can get. Because there's got to be pressure now. Yeah. It's not 1 year and we lost in the divisional, but we're going to be back at it. It's now 4 years of heartbreak, and not just losing, but losing in really pretty radical ways.
4 years out of the last 5, we've made the playoffs, and we couldn't get past the divisional round or one time the AFC Championship. Hell, one time, the first time, we couldn't even get out of the wild card.
It's kind of like, I hate to equate it to this, but back in the 90s, you know, the Bills, they make it to their first Super Bowl, and they're kind of that feel-good story. They lose on the last-second field goal to the Giants, and that's like, dang. And then a lot of people that, you know, were kind of riding that momentum, just the media and the nation, then they wanted to see the Bills get a Super Bowl. And then they play the Washington, now Commanders, and then they lose that one. And then after that, things turned sour. And it was
bad. Then we got blown out by the Cowboys.
From the media having a love affair with the city and the team to the media having they were sick of it. Like,
well, it's just like us being sick of the Chiefs.
You're gonna go 3 now Super Bowls and lose another one, and it happened. You're gonna go 4. Well, what's gonna happen now on the 4th one? And it's not. I'm making it maybe a little too extreme, but you're starting to see that now. We've now had back-to-back heartbreakers in the divisional. And now it's like, when's it going to happen? You got the Bengals; they're not going anywhere with Joe Burrow, they're just going to probably continue to make their offensive line better and build around him. Mahomes
they can afford it too.
Anywhere.
Mahomes
isn't going anywhere. 5 years in a row of hosting the title game in Kansas City.
They're the new Patriots.
Yeah. Who else? The Chargers are not going anywhere, although they seem to always shoot themselves in the
Staley,
foot.
I mean, they got rid of their offensive coordinator and QB coach, but there's going to be people lining up salivating for that.
Yeah, Dolphins aren't going anywhere. They might have a healthy Tua. Maybe he stays healthy all the next season. I'm assuming they're going to try to go with him. They're going to bolster.
Milano has anything to say.
Yeah, they're going to bolster their defense and. Look, I don't want to predict it because I don't want to put that bad juju out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Poyer's a Dolphin next year. With the way things are going right now, it wouldn't shock me.
They're
only going to get better. The Jets, there's already talks about the Jets getting Aaron Rodgers. So not only is our division never going to get probably any easier than it's been in the last 4 years, the AFC is not going to get any easier than it has been in the last 4 years. And that's why the window will continue to stay open with Allen. But the window is, if you think the window, Z-Bot mentioned this shout out to Z-Bot, the smoke break. But yeah, if you think that the window isn't starting to close each and every year, you're sadly mistaken.
I mean, we're all aware that there's Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert. You know, who knows where Carr's going to be? He could end up leading the Jets to the playoffs next year.
It could be. Yeah, you just don't know.
Lamar.
The Bills. Yeah. In the AFC East, the Bills now going on 3 years, pretty much 4, they've had their target on their back in that division. And the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Patriots have all spent the last 4 years, every offseason, doing what they can do at all lengths possible to try to get to the Bills level. And so now, they're right there on our tail. So it's going to be a grudge match just to get the division title going forward, let alone we all now, after seeing the struggle it's taken this last 4 years, we all can see how difficult it is to get to a Super Bowl. It's tough. It takes a lot of luck. It takes a lot of things to go your way. It
goes to show how impressive it was that the Bills of the 90s went to 4 in a row.
It's amazing.
How
impressive it is that the Patriots.
And that was after Kelly's rookie contract. I mean, because he went to the Gamblers. And then right now, Bean's presser today, he mentioned that he didn't want to get to the level of the Bengals sucking to get someone like Jamar Chase or number 1 overall Joe Burrow. He said that. So as much as they've been roasting us,
he's telling the media that, hey, I know
he doesn't want to hit that low.
Yeah,
but in there was a nice little burn.
He's subtly, in my opinion, telling the media, hey, lay off. There's a lot of heat coming our way right now in the last 24, 48 hours. We have been good enough over these last 4 years that we can't draft crazy studs like that anymore. Yeah. The only real way we got Diggs because we had to trade for him, right? But I get what he was trying to say there, why he was trying to do it.
I no longer think that the only people that can beat us is Josh Allen. I think it's the Bills can beat the Bills, and that's based on not being prepared.
We've been talking about that all season. The only team that could beat the Bills were the Bills, but even that, the Bills didn't beat the Bills on Sunday. The Bengals came in there with a game plan that was much smarter than ours, especially given the weather.
Nobody really went off. I mean, Chase and Boyd and Higgins were all under 60, 70 yards.
Everything they did.
Mixon.
Yeah, everything they did was easy. I mean, at least they made it look easy. And for, I think, much of the storyline for the 2023 Bills was everything they did, minus maybe the first month of the season, everything they did was hard, or it looked hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it shouldn't have been that difficult. And, there are some people that were talking smack to me on Twitter that were Bengals fans or Baltimore Ravens fans. I was talking about how Baltimore's defense was the toughest one that the Bengals would face. Now, this was before the Bills played. And I said, let's talk after the game, because I showed the ranks of, run defense, pass defense, sacks, interceptions. The Bills were right up there with Baltimore. Now, I use Baltimore for fantasy football. Would I've used Buffalo instead? Absolutely. But Baltimore's got a solid defense, and it may be just as good, if not better. All I know is we buckled when we were out of position. Poyer, who's such a good safety, was out of position. I don't know if that's a play call, if that's him misreading something, if that's the Bengals drawing up confusion. Whatever it was, we were off.
Yeah. Past the disappointment of not being able to see our favorite team play another week, I think when you get to the divisional round, it's such an exciting weekend in the NFL, because if you're one of the 8 teams that can make it to that, or 8 teams, you're literally right there. It's like you win one game and you're in the title game, one game and you're in the game to get to the game, right? And it's just like in your mind, you're just kind of chipping away. It's like that one step at a time. And it's so exciting. And then when it falls flat like that, it's such a, gut-wrenching thing. And
I would rather have gotten beat down in week 17 against the Bengals instead of a no contest, then corrected it and gone in there and made our adjustments. Just like Bean had referenced when we got beat down by the Colts last year. It happens once a year, and then we also choke a couple games, just like Allen slipping at the goal line against the Titans or losing 9-6 to the freaking Jaguars. This year we had those games. I mean, we lost overtime against the Vikings. Really, before the Bengals game, it was 8 points that we lost by a total in 3 losses, and that 4th loss was the most important one. Just like the Vikings, they had played 11 close games and won them. The Bills had squeaked by on some, especially against the Patriots and Dolphins lately, and then they ran out of gas.
And I think what sucks this year in particular, last year, at least we were firing off cylinders, and at least you could be like, we gave it literally everything we had. And we messed up on defense, but like on offense, we did everything possible. Josh Allen did everything possible. And then other than losing Dable, it wasn't like we really had that big of an unload yet with our kind of roster breakdown.
That's now. We have 21 people we lose.
It was a different team, but it wasn't that different. And I think that's what hurts the most this year, is that it was all that crap aside of us being crowned Super Bowl favorites going into the season, which now just seems very unwarranted. It was just, that was a lot of weight to start the season with. But now, it's never going to be the same. We're probably not going to see Poyer back. We're probably not going to see Singletary back.
We may lose Edmonds.
We may. I think we're going to still re-sign Edmonds.
He's so young. I mean, he started at 9. We got him at 19 years old.
Yeah, it's just tough. We may not get Shaq Lawson back. We may not get Phillips back on the D-line to help kind of shore up.
I think Lawson wants to be back. I think Phillips wants to be back. I think those guys learned their lesson when they left the first time. Going to Arizona or going to Miami and then the Jets. Like Shaq even mentioned it right after the game that previous teams were telling him, we don't want to hear you. Which meant shut up. And he goes, when he came back to Buffalo, he was welcomed with open arms, and he was allowed to be himself.
Yeah,
that boisterous.
Which they've preached about.
Fun.
Yeah, McDermott and Bean.
So they have a great culture. There's no doubt in that. It's just there were unprecedented number of injuries this year, and then you had Phillips trying to play through injury. You had Poyer playing through an elbow injury, and then a knee injury, and then you had all these banged. Like I said, there's a 100% injury rate in the NFL, but how severe are these injuries? Burrow, who had a Swiss cheese offensive line, they whooped our ass. I mean, I went back and watched Edmonds get pancaked. I watched Spencer Brown on offense, who's 6'8", just get manhandled, and I'm going, what happened?
Yeah.
It just wasn't good on both of the trenches. Offense and defense is where it needs to start. That's where you build out. Not in, you build out. And like Brant said here, Bean is pissed, and he wants to do some big, wild things in the offseason. He looks like he took it personally. Well, he should have taken the last several years personally, and he did with getting Vaughn. And he said in the presser today that he cannot do another Vaughn type of deal at this point because the cap is at 220. They're currently at 240, not including the 21 free agents. So they need to clear all that, restructure, and then somehow get some of these middle of the road guys to compensate for the few home run hitters that we are going to probably try to chase after. And I think we can get some of them.
That's the thing. Our defense isn't going to look the same next year. And we kind of banked on this year being it with all that pressure with the Super Bowl favorites and this and that. And this was going to be our year. And it didn't work out. And we gave all that money to Miller. But there was a chance that was going to happen. He had already had a surgery. He's getting old. That was in the cards to potentially happen, and it did. Like where we got a half a season from him, and like same thing could happen. Say this is theoretical. Say we went after Barkley, got ourselves a running back. I'm not saying we're going to do it. He's asking for CMC money, but he's a hell of a back. We could give him the bank, and he could do the same thing for us. He could do the same thing to us next year. We give him all that money, and then his knee blows out halfway through the season, and we're back with what happened this year with Vaughn, and we're screwed. So anything's a chance.
Or hear me out. What we could do is at the trade deadline, we could trade for Nyheim Hines and then give him 11 targets the rest of the year.
Look, Bean, I think we've given, rightly so, Bean and McDermott both deserve some praise for what they've done these last 4 or 5 years, that without question. But it doesn't mean that just because we're fans, it doesn't mean that we can't criticize, and I'm going to criticize.
You can definitely criticize.
Bean hasn't hit on defense and offense. He hasn't drafted good offensive linemen. He's let some offensive linemen go that have gone on to be Pro Bowlers.
Wyatt Teller.
Yeah, he hasn't done a good job of. We don't have dogs right now.
He's
on the
the
defensive
only
line.
Pro Bowler that Bean has drafted, and he let him go. He traded him.
Yeah.
He's
I forgot what I was watching. I was watching a show,
from the line.
And I was watching a show, and they said if you had someone watching that first quarter of the game on Sunday that's never watched football, doesn't know who the Bills are, maybe they know how football works, but they're not familiar with the Bills, not familiar with the Bengals. You have them watch that first quarter. And then you ask them, one of these teams going into this game were down 3 of their starting 5 offensive tackles that protect the quarterback. Which team was it?
Yeah.
Lineman. Which team do you think is dealing with that after this first quarter? They would have said the Bills.
But keep in mind, like I've mentioned to you in person, those linemen got them to the Super Bowl last year. And then they went and signed Alex Kappa, and they signed
there's still no excuse for, and I get it. The Bengals had a plan to get the ball out of Burrow's hand within
2.2 seconds.
But it's still this has been happening all year. This isn't just been a 1 year thing. This has been a multi-year thing. We the whole reason that we went out to get Vaughn was because we couldn't seal the deal and get to Mahomes last year in the divisional round. How many times were we yelling? How many times were we yelling at the TV last year in the divisional round in Kansas City? Oh my God, get him. They were almost there, and they could just never get there. It's always almost with this defensive line. I mean, if you got Pro Bowl nominations for almost getting at the quarterback, we'd have some Pro Bowlers. But almost doesn't matter when you're in the divisional or championship round in the playoffs. So Bean has failed at drafting dominant first and second round defenders, and he's failed at bolstering our offensive line. Kansas City, they were dealing with some offensive line issues, and within 12 months, they sealed it up and took care of it. We haven't.
Now, here's a question that Brandt's asking. He said, explain to me the Niners then. They were in the Super Bowl not long ago, and right there again. Never were they that bad since it. They bought everyone and are there again. Maybe I'm wrong. Now, they did get CMC. They lucked into a great draft pick with Mr. Irrelevant, literally 262nd pick in this past year's draft from an Iowa State quarterback who was third on the depth chart before being thrown in against Oklahoma State and then Oklahoma. He came from behind to beat Oklahoma State and then lost by 1 to Jalen Hurts, Oklahoma. That's playing for Iowa State. And they've got a top 5 as far as just multi-level talents in Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk came on strong. Everyone was talking about what was going on with Brandon Ayuk last year. Well, he certainly stepped it up this year. Well, he's healthy too.
And that made a difference. Yeah,
Kittle
no
is
joke
obviously the security blanket. Then you've got CMC and the running back that they drafted last year that they thought was a bust, and then he actually wasn't. He just got injured, Elijah Mitchell. And they're stacked. I mean, they're stacked on offense.
Yeah, what scares me is...
by the way, they're the number 1 defense.
Yeah, what scares me is that even if we would have gotten past the Bengals on Sunday, look at what we're competing with right now. And again, I'll repeat myself. I'm on repeat here. These teams aren't going anywhere. Look at how stacked the 49ers are. Look at how stacked the Eagles are. Look at how stacked the Bengals are and the Chiefs. Like, these teams aren't going anywhere. And you've got a resurgent Jaguars team that'll be hungry next year. It's just the road isn't going to get easier. The only thing that's going to make it easier for the Bills is that I don't anticipate them going through anything in the future like they did this year. On the field, off the field, the tragedy.
No, of course.
The unexpected, the ups, the downs, the draining emotionally. It's just, I can't anticipate anything like that ever happening again. So if that's a thing to look forward to and galvanize the team, my God, if they can get through a year like this, maybe next year we'll see. I don't want to say easy, but yeah, hopefully they're smoother sailing next year.
But like Von Miller said, they have Josh Allen. You're going to be able to get some free agents if you can afford them. Will they take a discount to go on a winning team? If they're smart. But then you got to make sure that all the personnel are in order, and maybe there will be a firing. But really, I mean, it's almost unfair to Dorsey. Maybe he is not creative, but I think he did whatever he could, and Allen obviously covered up a lot of his rookie mistakes. And
is that a conversation that McDermott and Dorsey can have one-on-one where it's like, how do I put this?
Study Kyle Shanahan, study Dable, study some of these other guys.
Is getting more creative, is that just kind of come with the more experience and it's just kind of a holistic, natural thing?
The dude played quarterback in college.
Is it either you have it or you don't have it? I don't know.
I mean, there was literally nothing sprinkled in all year. There was no imagination. If there were any
How many times was I asking for a fucking flea flicker?
How many times were we just hoping for a trick play, a creative play? Then you've got Andy Reid shoving it in everyone's face with the ring around the rosy and doing these trick plays, and they work.
Oh, yeah. What do they call? They're pulling a snow globe on us, and we can't even do the plays that they did this year makes a flea flicker look basic.
I know. And our trick play is doing a jet sweep we've been doing for 4 years.
Yeah, trying not to overreact is tough. It is. It's tough. I think I'm gonna give another shout out to Z-Bot, again, one of my favorite guys on podcasts right now with the smoke break. I love Z-Bot so much because he's just like yourself. He's born. I see a lot of him in you. Born and bred Buffalo. Like I'm not from Buffalo. I'm a passionate fan of 27 years, but I'm never gonna be a born and bred Buffalo fan. And I call it my adopted city, but you can just see the passion. And he mentioned in his reaction podcast that he wishes he could be a fan that's just like, oh, that was a rough Sunday, man, time to buckle up the bootstraps and let's, week starts, season's over. We'll get them next season. And he's not. He's got to talk about it, and he's got to decompartmentalize. And I'm like that too. I think a lot of you probably are, and I know Brant's probably like that.
Oh, we're still grieving. There's
you can't flip a switch. And I'm not telling people that are like that doesn't make you any less of a fan if you can just do that. I think in a way that's healthier. But and Zbot mentioned that, but Zbot said that it doesn't mean that. There are some people on the internet saying, if you let a game like this affect your mental health, you really need to look yourself in the mirror. And well, first of all, I think that's an awfully bold thing to just play, psychiatrist on Twitter. But look, like Zbot said, he's been following this team. You've been following this team since you were pretty much out of the womb. It hurts.
I don't remember not following them.
It's part of our ritual. It's part of our weekends for 17 weeks or 17 weeks plus. It's part of our weekly routine. And when a game like this happens, it sucks.
So Brant was saying a screen pass would have been creative.
Screen pass?
We did not use the screen game nearly enough.
Yeah, look, I think the biggest thing that collectively that we could probably agree on as Bills fans is that statistically, you wouldn't want to fire a guy like Dorsey. I think it would look criminal on paper to fire a guy like Dorsey with what he statistically did his first year as a new offensive coordinator. But yeah, he clearly has to get more creative.
And Brian Dable was able to chalk up. Remember when we played the Texans and Allen caught a touchdown?
Yeah.
He was always creative. He has Alabama background, the Patriots background. He was fun. And I think Dorsey's more high-strung, but he's super competitive, and I think he's going to want to get better and will get better if he's there. And if not, I've heard I've heard you even suggest, go get Sean Payton. Chris last week, Big Cat.
I didn't suggest it. My brother suggested it to me, and I said, no way that's happening.
It's not going to happen because he's obviously asking for $25 million and a first-round pick to get him. And he wants to be a head coach, not an offensive coordinator. He wants to do both. He wants to be
We're heartbroken as fans. Getting Sean Payton would be a slap in the face to McDermott, and he hasn't deserved that. The Sean Payton talk is ludicrous.
But and Bill O'Brien is going back to the Patriots. That's a done deal. And Dan Quinn may become another head coach. Now he's a defensive-minded guy, and you had talked earlier about when are we going to go offensive-minded since that's the trend in the league. And in the 8 teams that made it to the divisional round, McDermott's the only defensive mind. And then I had to remind you that Marv Levy was a special teams coach. It doesn't
Shout out to
matter.
special teams, baby. Steve Tasker, come on.
If you know the offense, you know the defense. If you're play calling the defense, preparing for the offense, you know what an offense is. You know what to do. That's why Matt Patricia was even able to make play calls. It doesn't mean that he was meant for it. And now they're probably letting him go altogether, not just on offense, because it's hard to bring someone back like that you fired. Where in the past, when Belichick's got rid of people, it's mostly because they were hired and promoted elsewhere. But anyway, I digress.
Can I do something real quick? Kind of a mid-show break. I was intending to pull this out at the end of the show, but I think it would be kind of just like a decompress moment in the podcast to kind of uplift ourselves and fellow Bills fans.
Yeah.
Do you mind? Okay.
No.
So I pulled a Scott. You're wearing off on me a little bit in a good way, Scott. I gathered some statistics earlier today, and I'd like to share them. Some perspective on the playoff drought compared to the last 6 years under McDermott. I'll try to make this brief. Okay. So the Bills win-loss record from 2000 to 2016, otherwise not so admirably known as the drought, the Bills were 112 and 160. That's a 41.18 winning percentage. Not so hot. Number of last place AFC East finishes in that time span of the drought. 8 of 17 seasons. 47% of the time during the Buffalo Bills playoff drought, they finished 0, dead last in the AFC East. How many coaches do you think there were during that span off the top of your head, Scott?
In the 17-year drought?
In the 17-year drought.
12.
There were 8. technically 6 head coaches,
and
2
interim.
interims, because 2 times amongst those 6 coaches, they were so bad that they wouldn't let them have the dignity to finish the season.
Yeah.
And then how many QBs would you say we had during that 17-year drought?
I've seen the back of a jersey with all the different names. I mean,
it's not as many as you think. Maybe the Browns, but it's considerable. Not Browns, I think, bad though. I'll tell you.
More than head coaches. When I said 12.
9 different starting quarterbacks throughout the drought, and I might be missing a few backups or some guys that kind of came in like for a few games, this or that.
Hey,
so,
if they started, they started.
Yep. So there's the recap of the drought as we all fondly remember here in Bills land. Okay. Now let's fast forward to what I like to call the 90s rebirth of the last 6 years under McDermott, from 2017 to present 2023. We are now under McDermott 62-35, a whopping almost 64% win rate. So from the drought years of winning 41% of the time, we now win 64% of the time. Number of last place AFC East finishes under McDermott, that's a good 0. In fact,
back to back.
3 of 6 years under McDermott, now we are AFC East champions. That's 50% rate. So I'd say that's pretty solid. And during that time, as you know, 1 coach, 1 GM, and only 3 quarterbacks. Tyrod in 2017, and then I'm counting Nathan Peterman, but pretty much 2.
Well,
Tyrod,
he started the year.
JA
they thought he was it. Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that. I think I needed to write that down today because I was in my feelings, and I have to kind of occasionally remind myself how I've gotten spoiled as a Bills fan and how far we've come from the drought. So I think that helps.
That's why Bede's saying don't make these knee-jerk reactions. We're still in the denial and the disappointment and in the pain phase of trying to accept what's going on.
And it puts things into perspective. I mean,
it just happens so fast.
It does. But when you sometimes you just got to put things on good old fashioned paper, and then it just looks different for some reason. You think about something.
I feel bad for those who already bought tickets to Atlanta. I have family in Atlanta.
That's what refunds are for, like Burrow said.
I know.
Hey, quick shout out to the Buffalo Sabres.
They scored?
They are up 3-0 against St. Louis right now.
It's been 40 minutes into
3-0 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the first period, and they are on a power play.
Crap. So that'll be 4 games in a row.
Real quick, yes. So for those of you that don't know, the Sabres are indeed back. I'm going to knock on wood because we've heard that before. They are trying to end their 11-year playoff drought. They're trying to catch up to the Bills. They are 3 points out of a playoff spot right now. So this game is huge, and it's in St. Louis. And they just won last night in Dallas against the best team in the West. So
yeah. Well,
things are bright right now for the Saberland.
True, and now it's full-blown Sabres season since the Bills are over. We can divert our attention and passion and love towards them.
Yeah, you're starting to see memes on Instagram where it's like, now is the time of the season where the Sabres have to carry the weight of all the disappointment and heartbreak of the Bills. And
they've got a top 2 scoring offense. It's just the Swiss cheese.
Oh my gosh.
Goalies. You've got a 43-year-old as your starter, 42-year-old. Then you've got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who I think is great, but he's still young, and they can't have 3 goalies. When you have 3 goalies, you have no goalies.
When it's all said and done, I like the St. Louis. They're wearing their throwback jerseys. They're kind of cool. When it's all said and done, Tage Thompson's rise, and I know I'm kind of getting the cart ahead of the horse.
Josh Allen of the Sabres.
It could be crazier than the way Josh Allen came up. There's not many people that thought Tage Thompson was going to be who he is.
He was still a first rounder.
They almost gave him away for like a 6th, 7th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills, the Sabres,
it would have been another Ryan O'Reilly thing.
They were going to deal him, and the team declined like a 7th rounder. Can you imagine?
Oh man. So shout out to Sue Lathrop, who's in the comments on Facebook. That's Scott Lathrop in our Pigskin Martin. That's his mom. She's been there since the first day I touched the football on the football field in Little League, or Pop Warner.
Shout out to the Lathrops.
I played with her son in high school and college. Anyway,
shout out to Pigskin Martin Fantasy Football,
Fantasy
too.
Football,
going strong.
22 years strong, or whatever it is.
League. 12-man and woman league. I forget.
That's true. There's 3 women in that league.
Competitive women in there.
Shannon, Nicole, and Misty. Yep, and Misty also played Little League Pop Warner with us, with my younger brother anyway.
What do you want to get on next? I know. I might have thrown you off a little bit by dropping the stats.
We're gonna talk about Saber.
Saber. Hey. Hey.
Oh,
Pound it.
man.
Pound it, buddy.
Pound it. Poo, poo, poo. Do you see him? Do you see Uncle Greg over there? We need to get a haircut. We both do. He's got the same comb over I do right now. Hi.
So how old is he now? A year and
17
4
months.
17
So
months.
a year and 5 months.
Cutest baby ever. He's like, I call him the Gerber baby. He looks like he could be on a can of Gerber. Hey!
Oh, he's just looking at you like, what is this? There, he's got some.
For the longest time, that kid didn't want anything to do with me. I shouldn't say longest time, but I would come like 3 or 4 times in a row, and he started bawling, and like I was wearing a freaking Freddy Krueger mask. And then one day, he just put his arms out and gave me the biggest hug, and it melted my damn heart.
Yeah,
and now ever since he's been my little. We'll be watching the game sometimes at your house, and he'll just sit with me on the couch, just watching it with the guys.
Yeah, Sue says so adorable. She says hi. It's cool to do these shows. Obviously, we're not going to be on set when we're doing it live like this remotely, but you get these little sidekicks stepping in, and I've got 2 dogs and a cat stomping around. All right, bud, I gotta sit you down. So obviously the Bills lost 27-10. The defense kind of disappointed. The offense was disappointing. The game started, and scored.
When's the last time? I want to ask you this, Scott. When's the last time you had that least amount of enjoyment watching a Bills game? And don't say the Colts game from last year.
It was probably the game when I first started dating Chelsea, and I took her to the bar. I want to say the pub for the first time at Cheerful, and I want to say we were playing the Bengals or the Browns, and it was just a shitty game, and we had a missed field goal, and we lost.
Yeah.
And I told her she was the bad luck if she couldn't come back.
And then the rest is history. She was not.
And then I married her.
Was indeed not bad luck. I think trying to think of a game that I had less enjoyment watching for the Bills than this one on Sunday, minus the Colts game where we got destroyed.
I didn't like losing in overtime when we made it to the playoffs for the first time.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of a game that you felt like you were never in it, which is what Sunday felt like.
How about the game Nathan Peterman was?
That's what I was thinking of. The opening season game against the Ravens in 2018 or 2017. No, 2018.
18, because Allen was a rookie and he ended up coming in after that.
Yeah, it would have been the year before the Texans wild card.
It was that game. I mean, obviously losing.
What was it, like 44-3 or something like that? I was sitting in a bar in South Dakota. I had gone back for I think it was a fantasy football thing, or it was a track thing, like an alumni thing. And I was staying with one of my former teammates, and no one was Bills fans. So I literally got an Uber by myself to go sit at a random bar in South Dakota. And I was the only Bills fan at that bar. And, it was whatever the final score was, 44-3 or 6. And, oh, boy, it was a rough game. Like, just especially not having anyone to, like, sit with and talk about it. I just was at the bar and just a lonely feeling.
Well, one of the games that I can recall was obviously breaking the playoff drought, playing the Texans, going up 16-0. We're all elated. And then I'm over in Blackview. Actually, we drove into Bend to watch the game at a sports bar. And on my way out of the driveway, I should have known something was going to happen because I backed into a tree. That was the beginning of a bad day.
I remember that. I was giving you so much shit for because we were originally going to watch it, and then you bailed. But for good reason. Good reason.
I bailed on my bros.
It was during your courtship with Chelsea, so it was.
I had to, man.
For good reason, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a rough time, man. That was I was just thinking, oh man, there goes my brake light. I like put a dent in my gas cap cover, or like the cover over that, scratched on the side of it, took off the side piece of the bumper. It wasn't that bad. I mean, But it
as
was
they
just
say,
like,
sometimes, yeah, when it rains, it pours, or things happen in threes.
well, this year they happen in nines. It was
Yeah, I think, yeah, well, it just the team's accomplished a ton, and they don't deserve all the extreme criticism coming at them, but they also don't deserve no criticism. They're somewhere in the middle there. But I think what hurts the most is that it's not just your typical losses, like especially just Allen's psyche, like the face he had at the end of the Texans wild card, and then the face he had at the end of getting rocked against the Chiefs the first time, and then the face he had after the 13 seconds, and then seeing his face yesterday. It's my God, like he needs it, and yeah, we think the city of Buffalo needs it. He needs a title just to be like, oh my God, like I know that I'm not jinxed, or like this clearly, like it's got to feel it. I don't want it to get to a point where it starts to feel like a nightmare, a reoccurring nightmare for him. And I don't think he'll get to that point, but it's just, that's why they do need to turn a corner, because he eventually, you can't keep on feeling that way. It's just, it's something's going to break. And Diggs would probably say the same thing right now if he was, talking to us here in person.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a season, man. And Diggs is obviously emotional, and him storming out of the locker room with this stuff. He wants to win. He wants the ball. I mean, we knew this.
Yeah. And we want everyone to have that attitude, because what happened on Sunday, whether their battery just finally went out, the old Energizer Bunny was going across the field, and then midway just stopped, battery dead. But, look, they have been through a lot, and I don't want to undervalue that, but whatever happened on Sunday, that's not it. Like, that wasn't Bills football. That's not. We've had some weird games in the last 4 years, but nothing quite like that. That was not the team that we're used to seeing.
And I feel like
any given week,
if we played them 5 times, we'd probably beat them 2 or 3 times. We were more evenly matched than that game represented. Oh,
I think, yeah, with everything they've been through this year, it's hard to really gauge and answer a question like that.
Yeah.
I think, look, yeah, like we were talking about, end of last year, Bills, the way they were, the momentum and how Allen was playing, I'd say give us 3 out of 5, maybe 4 out of 5. Seeing how this team was trending the last month of this year, God, I would say maybe 2 out of 5 if they're lucky.
I mean, the Bengals didn't change their game plan from week 17 to week 20 when they scored on us right away. The downside was that we didn't have an answer. We were 3 and out. They scored again. We were 3 and out. Then we were able to score and get it 14-7. And then they had the ball in our territory. It was 3rd and 4. And that's when we did that stupid Milano Edmonds stunt, leaving the 20-yard line exposed. And they scored again. Actually, I think they got a field goal then. But then they just scored. I mean, 27-10.
I mean, yeah.
We scored one touchdown. And
I know that these guys are human, both players and coaches, but there's too much on the line, and they're getting paid too much, including Leslie Frazier, to pull shit like that. It can happen a few times. To happen again and again throughout a game, it's unexcusable. And yes, you can go back to the refrain, but inexcusable. Yeah. But
I mean,
what do you want to talk about next? I was kind of thinking we could run through quickly, like just some of the notable unrestricted free agents, and like kind of do like a theoretical, what would, like, if you were Bean, what would you do to try to maybe restructure certain contracts or get creative?
I sent you the list. So I don't know if you have that pulled
up. I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it.
I don't, unless so we're FaceTiming each other so we can see each other, because I'm using Streamlabs, and I could see him, but he can't see me, which sucks. But
well, what if I run through this list real quick, and you just kind of give me a quick, you think kind of just in your gut they're going to keep him or they're going to let him go?
The team they're with, or the Bills? Oh, you're going over
these
the
21
Bills
players.
Okay,
yeah, these are all pending unrestricted free agents for the Bills.
Why don't I just do it? Pause. I'll give you a reaction right away.
Yeah. All right. Guard Ike Bacher.
He might be a backup. He's not going to start.
But we're keeping him. We're going to re-sign him.
He might re-sign for cheap. I mean, I feel like he was hurt too much to really know. I like him.
Yeah. Okay. Jamison Crowder, slot receiver. hurt most of the year.
Next, I mean, as much as he was supposed to do, he was a fill-in for Beasley, and then they used McKenzie, and he never quite lived up. He had one flashy game a year. So next.
Yeah, I don't think we're keeping him. Linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. This is a big one.
I think if we're signing someone else, we want to keep those linebackers in. Oh, wow. Okay, so Brant posted the list here of all the free agents. So when we get to that, I'll have it here. Thank you, Brant. But as far as the Bills, we'll keep going. I think if they're smart, they're going to find a way to re-sign him because he's only 24?
Yeah, he's young.
He's 25, 24? Yeah.
I do too. I think, look, you can't – they're going to probably have to either break up one of the duos. You're going to have to break up your linebacker duo or you're going to have to break up your safety duo.
And you're going with the 24 – you're going with the 24-year-old linebacker who's your captain or your 33-year-old safety.
Who's injured.
He'll be 32. Yes, and he's also a captain, but that might have been his last game.
They can't break up both, and I do not see them breaking up the tandem they have right now with Edmonds and Milano. So I also agree. I agree that Bean is gonna figure out a way to keep Edmonds.
And I love Poyer, but I feel like he's worth more than we could have ever given him, and they're not going to retroactively pay him.
He's an absolute warrior. What he did this year.
Yep.
Guard Bobby Hart.
Get rid of him.
I agree. Safety Jaquan Johnson.
He would be depth. He's obviously not a starter. If we can sign him for under $1 million a year, yes. Otherwise, get rid of him. He knows the system. He'll be there on someone's practice squad if he doesn't make an active roster. And we'll do the same thing we did if we have to give a seventh rounder halfway through the year when there's an injury, maybe for like a D. Marlowe.
Special teams captain, running back Tywan Jones.
You know, I watch him. He hauls ass. He is good. He's one of the reasons why we lost against the Texans because he was with them at this time.
Ironically, yes.
We can't keep them all, and I feel like he's a special teams ace, they call him, but he never touches the ball. Otherwise, we can find other people to fill that spot. But half the time, we're kicking the ball to the end zone anyway.
I feel like if it's not going to hit the cap that much, then I think that they're going to find a way to keep him. But
if they do, if there's 5 guys on this list of 21,
just because they value the special teams so much. Okay. Yeah. Backup quarterback Case Keenum.
They already signed Barkley as a reserve, and I know he was our backup a couple of years ago. Keenum was a great backup, and we almost needed him, but we didn't. So that's another one of those culture guys. If he wants to take a discount, great. If not, there's going to be so many backup quarterbacks because the young talent is there.
Oh, there's a decent amount of free agent backups going into this offseason.
I say that's a last priority then. I mean, Allen needs to stay healthy, obviously, or we're screwed either way.
Yep. Okay. All right. We'll move on. Linebacker AJ Klein.
Next. I think when we get those young guys.
Yeah, he's old. I mean, he fits our system. He's got history with McDermott, but
I like him. But I do feel like our linebacker, Balin Spector, he's good when he's healthy. He's going to be a fine replacement.
All right. Wide receiver Jake Kumaro. Touchdown Jesus.
I wish we could have found out what he truly could have been, but he was either buried on our practice squad or on injured reserve, and he never came back after that injury in November. So, next.
Defensive end Shaq Lawson.
Keep him. Re-sign him.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Safety Dean Marlowe.
I mean, we traded for him, but he's good. He got hurt in this game, and that certainly didn't help. I mean, he's going to be cheap. I feel like for cheap depth, he's worth it. But if we're going to move on from Poyer, we need somebody that's been there, and I think he's that guy that we need as a solid veteran backup.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. Okay, punter Sam Martin.
Re-sign him. I mean, he made us forget about the punt god. He averaged like 46, 47 yards. He's fine. He didn't have any.
The only thing I'm thinking, they're the Irish or Scottish Hammer from the Giants, his Jamie Gillian or whatever. He's a free agent, and then J.K. Scott from the Chargers is also a free agent that I was looking at. But maybe they just stand put with the punter.
Look, if you get a punter that averages between 43 and 47 yards, and he doesn't shank them like Bojorquez used to.
But
I mean, we're not going to be able to find a Morstead probably or someone like that. That's just going to Townsend.
Yeah, and the problem is, I was looking kind of briefly at the free agent punters earlier today, and there are some older ones as well. Like they're all kind of like there's not just like a lot of, obviously young guns. So, okay. Linebacker, Tyler Matakevich.
Like I said with Spectre, our depth could do it. He doesn't play anything else. I don't want to devalue special teams, but I feel like there's going to be somebody that can plug and play it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we had a first-year special teams coach and a first-year offensive coordinator. I thought Smiley did fine. We didn't have any really major hiccup. I think Bass had a couple misses here and there, but otherwise was great.
Yeah, I would give it a B. I would give special teams a B+.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Nathan Wheeler is in the comments. It says, "Please."
Oh,
don't
did
go
he say
live
Josh
anymore."
Allen sucks?
He said Josh Allen sucks. Yes.
Oh, I'm so shocked.
Susie Q says yes, keep and keep. She might be agreeing with me on the other ones. I'm not sure.
Susie Q.
Yeah, Susie Q, baby, I love you.
All right, moving on to offensive tackle Justin Murray.
He was always depth. He was never. I don't care. Those are replaceable. He's not going to start. And if he does,
We got
we're in
him
trouble.
from. We get him from the Titans. No,
He played. I want to say he played for the Raiders. He played for the Titans. He's a depth guy. He's had starting time, but he's not a starter.
Okay, defensive end Jordan Phillips.
Yeah, I would like to keep him.
Yeah,
But we need
dude, when he's
that
doing
shoulder.
the arm wave,
He's
to the
our
crowd,
hype man.
like,
Every
him and Shaq.
every Bills backers bar needs one, and every football team needs one. And I feel like
Cheers
I
to
feel
that.
like I
Damn
would like to
straight.
keep him.
All right, we already talked about this, but I'll say it again. Safety Jordan Poyer. I don't see him staying.
I'd love to put him up there on priority, but I feel like we need youth. And you know who they might move is now that we know that Kyer Elam came on, the guy that we started over him early on, the 6th rounder, the Christian Benford, he can move the safety. Or
They're already talking about that.
And Cam Lewis has also played corner and safety. So I would say test it in training camp. But
emotionally, Bean wants to keep Poyer. Financially and realistically, he can't keep Poyer.
Yeah.
Okay. Offensive tackle David Quessenberry.
Don't care. He was decent.
I think
he was
he's
shaky
gone.
at first, but we need to reload all together.
Jeez, our offensive line needs so much work. Okay.
Aaron Cromer, I expected more from his guys.
What do you think needs more work in this offseason? Like more turnaround, the O-line or the D-line?
O-line 100%. If Daquan Jones was playing that game, Mixon's not getting 100 yards.
Yeah.
He's 2 times as good as what we ever expected Starlov Tulele.
Even the Snowman, I love him to death, and he's a hell of a human, but like he didn't play very well. He's not. Did he got drafted in the 1st round, right?
Who?
Snowman, Dawkins.
Dawkins was a late 1st rounder, I wanted, or early 2nd rounder. Damn,
he's not playing like one. Not even close.
I mean, he's our best offensive lineman, but it doesn't mean
it's not saying much on this offensive line.
No.
But yeah, I look. I'm being maybe a bit.
He was
overcritical,
2nd round,
but-
63rd overall.
Okay,
in
so he wasn't
2017
first.
from
All right.
Temple.
Well, that makes it a little different. Okay. All right.
I mean, we had Cody Ford, who you might have been confusing him with.
No,
was our
I
early
just
second
thought
rounder.
for some reason I thought that Dawkins was a 1st rounder. Okay.
This kid is mad that I'm ignoring him. Look at
Guard Roger Saffold.
He was our worst rated or graded PFF lineman, and he wants to resign, but I feel like he's going to be depth only, and he already said I'm willing to take a discount to stay.
I think we'll keep him. Yeah, I think because he said that, I think Bean will work something. Okay. Running back Devin Singletary, also known as Devin Singletary.
He's gone.
Yeah. Wow, 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 wow.
All right, say hi one more time, and then go bye-bye. Hi.
Bye. Bye, buddy.
Those lights are so bright. All right.
All right, tight end Tommy Sweeney.
I know they like him, but he's either had that heart issue or been injured, and he didn't really see the field. We need better tight end depth. Next.
Okay.
I like Quentin Morris.
I also agree he's gone. Guard Greg Van Roten.
The entire offensive line could go other than Dawkins and Spencer Brown and Morse. Those three, I don't care about depth, and I don't care about guards. Bring them in.
Yeah, I think we're keeping Roten, but
whatever.
That rounds off the unrestricted free agent list. Second period just underway. Sabres still up 3-0.
All right. Now let's talk about top free agents, and this is in order based on some of the experts, but Javon Hargrave from Philadelphia, who's 30. He's obviously still playing.
He's a stud.
He's a defensive tackle. He's good. Then you've got Kansas City's offensive tackle Orlando Brown, who's
stud.
He is a stud, but he's also the reason why.
Prone.
Yeah, and his blown. I believe it was him who caused, not caused, but it was his guy that hurt Mahomes last week. I could be wrong, but I thought it was. And then if we're gonna look for a safety, the top safety on the market would be Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, also from Philly, and he's 25.
Young. Damn.
Yeah. And then Philly, again, their cornerback, James Bradbury. So this is their go for broke. Like, this is their year. Because
it is.
If they win, all these guys, their value goes up, and they're free agents. Whether restricted or not, they're going to have to offer.
They're dealing with what we're dealing with, but like on even a bigger level.
Think about that. I've just named 3 of the top 4 players so far.
That would be like if like we were also set to lose Trey White potentially after the season. Can you imagine if that's like?
Well, that's why we're already over the cap, because we have Allen under contract, where when we were talking about Bengals earlier, Joe Burrow's on his rookie contract, Jamar Chase is on his rookie contract. They can go and get all these other guys. Anyway, I'll keep going.
Sabres up 4-0. TT H. Thompson, 33rd goal of the season.
I should put it on, but I want to try to. I don't need more stimuli over here.
I'm just gonna give. I'm gonna give some occasional updates.
That's fine. I mean, we're an hour 11 minutes in. Okay.
All right.
Running back Saquon Barkley. We've talked about him. He's only 26. He plays for the Giants.
I would love to have him, but I don't. Like I said, though, you're taking a big chance. The same thing that happened with Von Miller this year could easily happen with a guy like him.
Well, that was the chance the 49ers were willing to take, and they also. McCaffrey's doing everything, but they also have Eli Mitchell, who was their starter, and they had Trey Sermon at one point. They just ousted him.
There's no doubt, in my opinion, we screwed the pooch this year by not doing it and going for a lighter, similar stature running back to Singletary and James Cook. We need to draft a Kenneth Walker or Breece Hall.
Yeah, one of those
we
guys.
We need a big bruiser to complement James Cook and to take pressure off of Allen.
I will get to a name that I would love to sign. Screw it, I'll just say it now. Josh Jacobs. He's going to be on the market.
I'd love it.
I think.
How big is he? He's like 220, isn't he? About 220.
Yes, he is meaty. That dude's strong. All right, so I'll keep.
But would you rather pay a decent bag of money to a guy like Jacobs or?
We have to draft. We have to hit.
Yeah, or would you just? I mean, I just feel like running backs. Not that they're a dime a dozen, but it's like you wouldn't you rather just get a guy in maybe the 5th or 6th round that's got low mileage and I don't know. I think the thing I like about drafting a running back, and it seems to me that you don't have to do what we've done and draft one in the top 3 rounds. Is like you can get a later round running back and get a big bruiser that's still on the board. And then, you've got a guy that doesn't have 3 or 4 years worth of carries on him. But that's just my opinion. Well,
Brandt is saying that Jacobs is happy to stay with the Raiders. He said he's made enough money.
Well, regardless, I think we should just draft in the later round and take a chance on a young, durable, 220-plus pound bruiser and see what happens. And
I mean, finally, running backs already devalued.
Yeah, so. let's not make Allen for 17 weeks in a row leading into the playoffs think that he's got to put the whole weight of the Buffalo City on his shoulders. Like, take some pressure off the guy.
Now, if you want another defensive tackle, since Oliver and Jones might not be enough, Washington has a 26-year-old defensive tackle in Darren Payne, and then Cincinnati's got their safety, Jesse Bates. He's due for a contract. He's a safety. Odell Beckham Jr., who is 30, and there was rumblings of him, coming into. He did come into town.
I don't want him. Yeah, I don't want him.
I would take him, but he might not be worth the headache.
Not on my list.
Now, Mike McGlinchey is San Francisco's offensive tackle who's still playing right now. They'll probably try to re-sign him.
To me, I look at OBJ as just another high-risk guy where you're going to end up potentially overpaying for a dude that's going to underperform. He's coming off a back-to-back
It's
major
like getting him
knee
past his
surgeries.
prime, like a Terrell Owens. Where
I don't know.
flashy,
I've gone bitter on him with just over the last half of this year. I don't know. Yeah.
Another defensive tackle, Tremont Jones for the Broncos. He's 26. Then there's a wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, 26 from Kansas City. So I think he must have only signed a one-year deal.
I think they're going to re-sign him.
They likely will, yeah. If we want a corner, which we do need depth, but I don't think we'll need a starter. I don't think that was our problem. We had a good pass defense. It was number 7. Rush defense was number 7. And obviously they looked like the 29th ranked defense in that last game. But see Jamel Dean for Tampa Bay. He's a corner. What about Jacoby Myers for like a wide receiver 2 or 3? He's 26. Comes from New England. I think he's okay. He's nothing I would break the bank.
Yeah, I'm not stoked about it.
All right, defensive lineman Zach Allen from Arizona, 26. Running back Tony Pollard. They'll probably re-sign him, and if they do, they're going to let go of Dalton Schultz or someone else.
Again, I love Pollard to death, and he's a game changer. But I want a 225-pound back that can take 3 carries.
Well, then the next guy
be a
up is
3-down
Josh
back.
Jacobs. He's 25.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay, then do that. Otherwise, like you said, find someone in college who's a little thicker.
Yeah, we need a bigger
taller
running
than
back.
5'8". Yeah,
We've got the shifty, quick running backs in James Cook and Hines. Singletary, but yeah, we need a different kind of running back.
So we've got Rousseau and we've got Miller under contract. The next defensive end that would be available would be the Saints, Marcus Davenport. I feel like he's going to be a little too rich for us.
Yeah.
If we want a tight end instead of Sweeney to double up with Knox, there's Evan Ingram, who's only 28. I liked him when
Oh
he
my
was
gosh,
playing for
I'd
the
love
Giants.
that. Dude,
And
he's playing so good. I don't see the Jaguars letting him go.
you're probably right. They have Lawrence under a rookie contract, so they can afford to pay him and then
He's
put the
fast. He's like
backload on.
wide receiver fast.
He is built like a wide receiver too. I mean, he's strong, but he's built like a basketball player. Really, that's what most of the good tight ends are, that are catching tight ends. As far as blocking, usually they're a little thicker, like a Lee Smith. Linebacker David Long. If we were to get rid of Edmonds, we could go for someone like that. He's only 26, but like you said, they're going to do whatever they can to keep Edmonds, I think. Another cornerback would be Cameron Sutton, who's 28, played for the Steelers. Linebacker Levante David, he could be a temporary fill-in if we went and drafted a linebacker, because he's 33. He's getting up there in age. I would much rather take a 24-year-old Edmonds who already knows the defense under McDermott. And
Exactly.
then I've already mentioned Dalton Schultz. He's 27. I think he had a heck of a year. He probably priced himself out of our market, what we would be willing to pay.
Yeah, I think Knox is he's too much like Knox. I think that would just be a wasted roster spot.
Yeah. So a couple defensive ends would be Delvin Tomlinson for Minnesota, 29, or Yannick Ngakoue, 28, Colts. What do you think of Mike Gesicki? Do you think he'd pair up with Knox? Or do you think he's just kind of like whatever?
I don't know. I just could see that as being just another kind of just pick, like a kind of just a waste of money.
Yeah, it's hard to say because he was their tight end 1 and he was flashy. I mean, he kind of took it to us a handful of times, and he also scored on us the last time we played him. But he's nothing special. I think he'd be an awesome tight end 2, but for the price of a tight end 1, no thanks.
No.
Wide receiver DJ Shark.
Yeah, I've always liked Chark, but he can't stay healthy consistently.
Yeah, he's only 26, but he does have health issues. He did in Jacksonville and Detroit. See, Brandon Graham, Philadelphia, 35, defensive end. Yeah, getting up there in age. We don't need another one of those. We've got
No.
Then there's Edmonds, who will be 25 next season. There's offensive guard Ben Powers. If we're going to go for a guard over Saffold or Ryan Bates, who didn't do as well as I was hoping. Bates was a good swing guard and center, and those interior guys.
What was that a safety you mentioned that the Eagles are going to be free agent for the Eagles? That was 25. Or a cornerback.
There's a cornerback, James Bradbury, who's 30, but
And
the safety was 25. It was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
See, I would love something like that if you're going to invest money.
Physical.
Yeah, get a guy like that that's young, and you're going to still get a good 4 or 5 years out of him potentially.
That's what they did with Poyer, and they got 5 years out of him.
I would like that. To me, so far, everything you've mentioned, that's the one that catches my eye the most.
Yeah, I mean, someone's going to offer him more than we probably can because we have that White contract and we have that rookie already. So would you want to go with Kyer and just get depth? Why, if you're spending all the money on corner? Oh, no, safety. You said safety.
Safety.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, Micah Hyde is under contract for 1 more year. He came in at the same time as Poyer, but had 1 less year.
Same thing. Like now next year, it's going to be that same situation. Like, if we don't get to the Super Bowl next year, then we're going to be talking about Hyde instead of Poyer this year. Like, it's going to be kind of a never-ending cycle.
I'm told over here that dinner's done, so I'll have to wrap this thing up soon. We'll get over
to
the rest of these. All right, offensive guard Ben Powers I mentioned from Baltimore, and then defensive tackle. I should have put these in a category of position instead of going all over the place, but Poona Ford.
That's fine.
27, Seattle. Offensive guard, Nate Davis, 26 for the Titans. Offensive guard, Dalton Reisner for Denver. Cornerback, Rock Yassin. That's somebody who has some depth. 27 for the Raiders. He didn't start with the Raiders. He's not bad. I remember him coming out of the draft, but he's not really stuck. So he'd be good depth. He wouldn't be a starter. But again, we're looking more for like a safety. It would be great. I don't really want him because he's from the Bengals, but Von Bell, he's only 28 and he's available.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as running backs, if we couldn't get someone like Barkley, Miles Sanders is only 26. And
that's young.
That is a good one. If we couldn't get Jacobs or Barkley, if we were going to go for a veteran, to pair up with Cook, that would be really nice.
Yeah, we just need a big bruiser. We've got too much speed on running back and shiftiness. Now we need a guy that can be, instead of having Allen run 10 times a game, Allen runs maybe 4 or 5 design plays a game, and you give those extra 10, 12 plus carries to a big bruiser, because Allen's not going to last forever. He can't keep on doing the rate he's on right now. It's not going to, that's not sustainable for 10 years. If you want to get a 12, 15 year career out of him, if he chooses to play that long and it works out where he plays that long for us, you've got to take some beating away off of his body throughout a season.
Yeah. I don't mind him getting red zone touches, but between the 20s, I want to see our running backs do the dirty work.
That's what their job is. That's the whole point of a running back. Yeah, in the red zone, design some for Allen.
And now Knox has proven that he's a threat. So you use him in the red zone when you can't punch it in with the running back or QB.
4-2 Sabres.
Oh damn! They're
St. Louis just cut the lead in half.
Who's our goalie right now? Is it Anderson or Uka?
Ukalekin.
Uka-puka-laka,
awaka-laka-taka.
Defensive end, Arden K. I'm not really worried so much about that. I mean, I know we didn't get a ton of pressure, but again, Vaughn was great first half of the year, had 8 sacks in 9 games. Patrick Peterson is 33. He would be nothing more than depth for us. I mean, he had a good game against us. He had 2 picks.
I'm sick of taking flyers on like an old player
it's like Miami
may last
did that.
a year.
Miami did that with Melvin Ingram, who's a defensive end, outside linebacker, depending on what scheme.
Yeah, we need to get younger, not older.
Isaac Sumalo, 29, Philadelphia. And then last on this list of the top 30, basically, is Jadeveon Clowney, who's kind of fallen out of favor because Myles Garrett is amazing, and Clowney on the other side, you would think would have space and be able to apply pressure, but couldn't.
Yeah.
I smell the food.
Well, there's a lot of options, yeah.
Well, we could do a lot of these. It doesn't have
Oh
to
yeah,
be this
well,
being the season.
yeah,
ending.
we got a pretty good recap in. I think there's not much more that needs to be said that hasn't already been said about what transpired on Sunday. I thought this was a good thing to do this, and thanks for setting it up, Scott. And yeah,
Yeah.
we'll definitely do some live shows throughout the off season and do some more off season talk occasionally here and there.
One more thing I want to mention before we go. What kind of effect do you think Dorsey interviewing in Carolina had on his focus on Sunday?
Not good. The fact that the league lets this happen and it's just normal is stupid. Stupid.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It only helps the team that's trying to get the guy out of, from the other team. But Roger Goodell needs to fix that and fix it fast. You should not have distractions that major. I mean,
look, Dan Quinn went and interviewed. They lost too.
Yeah, any adult that's had to interview for a job, like even just a run-of-the-mill person that's not on the level of an NFL coordinator or trying to get a head coaching gig. Like, can you imagine? We're talking about interviews that last sometimes upwards of 6, 7, 8 hours. Why the hell are you having someone do that the day before what is your most important game up to that point in the season?
Well, they want to give them an opportunity. McDermott's always been fair in that regard, but it is stupid. I don't
think it's the reason we only put up 10 points, but it certainly can't help. I mean, we already had enough things not really going in our favor with clearly from all accounts, people were out of juice. They were out of emotional and physical energy.
So Brant is saying resurrect Clowney's career. And then Sue said, we're going to the Super Bowl in 2024. I can feel it. For your information, Purdy, the quarterback for the 49ers, goes to our church. Just wanted to let you know. Have a great night. That's cool.
Nice.
I believe he is from Arizona. And I think she has a place out in the Phoenix area. And she's from my area, obviously, but they got a house out there.
Nice.
And then here's a little haymaker from Brant. Brian Dable also went for an interview last year and we lost.
Yeah.
He got the job in New York.
It's not a good system, and it needs to be changed. Shame on you, Roger Goodell, but he doesn't care as long as he's making money, as long as he's making his $42 million or whatever.
Yep.
Stupid.
Well, I think we've done it, man. We made episode 35. Such a joy. We made it in an hour and a half.
It's been a long season. It's been a fun season as always. And it's been an absolute pleasure to, over these last 35 episodes, get to learn some things from you and get experience being a part of my first official podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, true. It's been a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of growth. And obviously here we're forced to look at the camera, but throughout the episodes, we've both gotten better about articulation and try not to talk over each other. It's even harder here because there could be a slight delay. But
I have a bad habit of interrupting people. I've found that out, and
I've done it too.
This podcast has helped me focus on trying to not interrupt, which is extremely rude and something I think I've gotten better at.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the house that Ellen built. I have no cards to show on camera. We have a Diet Coke here.
Hey, I got it.
Oh, you've got some.
Yeah, my God. Let's see here.
Huh?
I might have shown this one all right.
I do have a card here. This is... I don't know where it's at. It's not where I thought it was.
This is a 2018 Select Josh Allen 4-color patch. I love this card.
That is a sweet card. You got a second one? Show one for me since I can't show
You got
mine.
one? You don't have another one?
I mean, here, a quick little glance. This was one that was made for me. It's one of my face. It's not in the legit One Touch. I have it somewhere on my desk. Yeah, my desk.
That counts. It's a card. It's technically a card.
Well, anyway, thank you for joining all year, and we're gonna have plenty to talk about this off season. But
yeah, it's gonna be a long off season, Bills Mafia. But there's no other fan base that's built for it than this one. We're gonna have brighter days ahead.
For sure.
Full steam ahead, one day at a time. Let's get it.
Well, with that being said, this is the house that Alan built. I'm Scott Martin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
All right.
And let's go
Buffalo!
Buffalo!
Yeah, it's been a long time coming to rep the East. Buffalo bad with a vengeance. We resurrected the team, man, we dangerous. Watch for these horns, they lacerate and cut. We don't play no game while we play this game. No, I playing us. You know what it's about, you made me wanna shout. They said to take it now, we took another route. Deuces to the drought. Play through all the doubters, finger pointing and laughing. The ones that was talking that trash are the same ones circling wagons. We ain't having it. Dominate divisions ever since we put the L in it. Knocks the competition out the stadium like hammer fist. Stephon Diggs a grave and he pays respects to the cornerbacks that can't cover quickness. Then he catches it. Yeah. In 1995 to 2020, break the streak. Kept the faith in every season for the team, cause I believe. Taught me no matter how many times you're down, do not accept defeat. Feel like number 17. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. What? You got me feeling like I'm Josh. Okay.